It's a serious situation, and we're concerned. We're concerned about this escalation, to be absolutely clear.
It's a serious situation, and we are worried. We are concerned about this escalation. That was Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, speaking from Doha, Qatar, on January 18, 2026, hours before authorizing Canadian Armed Forces to prepare troop deployment to Greenland, small contingent, NATO sovereignty drills, direct partnership with Denmark, explicit challenge to Trump's threats to seize the Arctic island through tariffs, pressure, or force, 10% tariffs on 8 European nations, France, Germany, UK, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Netherlands, Denmark, all targeted for sending troops to Greenland. Trump's ultimatum: withdraw by February 1st or face 25% duties, largest tariff threat against NATO allies in 75-year alliance history. 118 Danish soldiers deployed, 12 French troops, 12 German specialists, small Nordic contingents, total European presence, 150, 170 personnel conducting sovereignty exercises across Greenland. While Trump assumed economic coercion would fracture European resolve and isolate Denmark, Canada positioned troops for immediate deployment. While Trump weaponized trade to acquire territory, Carney reinforced NATO unity operationally. While Trump demanded submission, Ottawa proved alliance cohesion could withstand American pressure. The reversal is stunning. Trump's Arctic strategy didn't intimidate allies. It unified them against Washington. Saturday, January 18th, 2026, 2 Canadian officials confirmed to CBC News that Mark Carney is weighing contingency plans to send soldiers to Greenland for NATO exercises. Canadian Armed Forces submitted deployment options for political approval. 10-20 troops could be airlifted within days. This isn't routine. Royal Canadian Air Force already has contingent in Greenland. 3 CF-18 fighters, 1 Cormorant helicopter conducting NORAD exercises, standard bilateral operations predating crisis. But Carney is considering something beyond NORAD. Additional personnel joining Operation Arctic Endurance, Danish-led drills protecting Greenland infrastructure and demonstrating Allied territorial commitment. Organized outside formal NATO structure, but involving multiple members. Similar model to Ukraine coalition support. The distinction matters. Participating signals political solidarity, not military routine. Canada stands with Denmark against external pressure. Places Canadian troops on exact territory Trump claims America must control. Timing is deliberate. Trump's Saturday tariff announcement named 8 countries sending Greenland troops. Threatened 10% duties, February 1st. Warned 25% escalation if presence continues. Called exercises very dangerous game, risking safety, security, survival of our planet. That language reveals strategy. Frame Allied cooperation as threat, use economic punishment to force withdrawal, isolate Denmark, clear path for American acquisition. Canada's response dismantles it, preparing deployment within days, not weeks, signals Europe isn't isolated. NATO unity is operational reality. Arctic sovereignty will be defended collectively regardless of American threats. Carney's statements reinforce this. From Doha, we always will support sovereignty and territorial integrity of countries, regardless of geographic location. Emphasis on Greenland's future determined by Greenland and Denmark. Direct rejection of Trump's claims. Chief of Defense Staff General Jenny Carignan confirmed Trump's interest prompted NATO discussions, said Canada is working closely with Danish partners on coordination, not considering or exploring. Working closely means active coordination underway. Danish Defense Ministry announced enhanced presence, 118 soldiers, maritime patrol aircraft, Arctic naval vessels, surveillance drones, radar systems in East Greenland. France sent reconnaissance teams. Germany deployed technical specialists. Norway, Sweden, Finland contributed Arctic warfare experts. Netherlands provided logistics support. Each contingent small, dozen troops each, but collectively unprecedented European military presence in Greenland since W2. Total, roughly 200 personnel conducting sovereignty exercises, infrastructure protection, interoperability training. Canada's expected contribution, 10-20 personnel, modest scale, enormous symbolic weight. Canada brings Arctic expertise Europe lacks, longest Arctic coastline, Inuit communities spanning Canada, Greenland with shared culture, language, family ties. Canadian Rangers conduct sovereignty patrols using Indigenous knowledge. Royal Canadian Navy operates Arctic patrol vessels. Armed forces train for extreme cold operations. European militaries rarely encounter. Canada's participation transforms narrative. No longer European resistance. Now transatlantic coalition, including North American partner with direct Arctic interests and second longest coastline globally. Conservative opposition leader Pierre Poilievre, normally harsh Carney critic, backs NATO commitment. Called Trump's threats utterly irresponsible and threat to NATO and global security. Liberal strategist Scott Reed said deployment sends clear red warning light to Trump, not provocation, boundary. Bipartisan consensus matters. Trump can't frame this as partisan opposition. Canada's stance persists regardless of next election. Greenland existed in geopolitical limbo for years, 57,000 people, semi-autonomous under Denmark since 1979. 2.1 million square kilometers and larger than Alaska, Texas, California combined, economically dependent on $600 million annual Danish subsidies, strategically critical, controls Arctic shipping lanes opening from climate change, holds rare earth deposits worth trillions, hosts Thule Air Base, America's northernmost installation critical for missile warning. For decades, Thule symbolized smooth cooperation. Greenland provided territory, Denmark maintained sovereignty, America ensured security. Satisfied all parties. Trump shattered this. Mentioned buying Greenland August 2019, Denmark called it absurd. Trump canceled state visit in retaliation. Media treated it as distraction. Revived during 2024 campaign. Framed as strategic necessity, most dismissed as bluster. January 2026 escalation proved he's serious. Declared Greenland essential for national security. Suggested military force remains option. Posted, we're going to do something about Greenland and they may not like it. Not diplomatic ambiguity. Overt threat. Combined with tariffs on nations supporting Denmark, intent is clear. Acquire Greenland through economic coercion, military options in reserve. Denmark responded with buildup. Parliament approved second agreement on Arctic and North Atlantic October 2025, anticipating pressure. Committed billions to patrol aircraft, naval vessels, radar systems, drones, expanded facilities, permanent enhancement of presence in territory Trump wants. European allies joined incrementally. France sent teams December 2025. Germany deployed specialists January 2026. Nordic nations contributed experts. Netherlands provided support. Each small, collectively unprecedented solidarity. Trump interpreted cooperation as threat. Announced tariffs January 18th, targeting every participant. Framed exercises as dangerous provocation. Demanded withdrawal to avoid punishment. Exposed miscalculation. Trump assumed tariffs would fracture alliance by forcing choice between market access and solidarity. Assumed Europe prioritizes trade over sovereignty. Assumed coercion outweighs commitments. All wrong. European response. Immediate, unified, defiant. 8 nations issued joint statement condemning tariffs as threatening dangerous downward spiral that would undermine transatlantic relations fundamentally. Emphasized full solidarity with Denmark. Declared Operation Arctic Endurance poses no threat and addresses legitimate needs. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen reinforced message. Highlighted shared transatlantic interest in Arctic peace. Warned about EU readiness to defend against any coercion. Scheduled emergency meeting January 23rd for response options, including retaliatory tariffs and anti-coercion mechanisms. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte met Danish Defense Minister, issued statement, we will continue collaborating as allies, emphasized NATO's Arctic role. Denmark expressed gratitude for support. Canada now positions as transatlantic bridge. Carney's deployment transforms European resistance into broader coalition, includes North American partner with Arctic interests, second longest coastline, indigenous populations spanning boundaries. Strategically, Canadian participation demolishes Trump's narrative. He claims only America can defend Arctic. Canada's deployment proves false. Allied cooperation, Danish sovereignty, European solidarity, Canadian expertise provides viable alternative. Numbers quantify deterrence. Denmark, 118 troops. Germany, 12. France, 12. Norway, Sweden, Finland, Netherlands, 8, 15 each. Total European, 150, 170. Canada, 10, 20 soldiers. Combined Allied presence, 200 troops. Not invasion, not occupation. Demonstrative deployment showing commitment, building interoperability, protecting infrastructure, establishing precedent. Contrast Trump's threat: 10% tariffs immediately on 8 nations, escalating to 25% if presence continues, applied to all goods from France, Germany, UK, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Netherlands, Denmark. Those 8 economies, massive US-Europe trade. Germany alone exports $100 billion annually. Combined threatened volume exceeds $500 billion. Trump's calculation: economic pain forces capitulation. Europe withdraws troops to preserve market access. Denmark isolated. Greenland acquisition proceeds, but ignores European retaliation capacity and misreads priorities. EU represents $18 trillion economy. Larger than U.S. can impose counter tariffs on American agriculture, technology, industrial goods, can activate anti-coercion tools restricting U.S. corporate access, can coordinate with Canada, Japan, South Korea, Australia for synchronized pressure. More fundamentally, tariff threat misreads 2026 priorities. Sovereignty isn't negotiable. Territorial integrity isn't transactional. Alliance commitments matter more than quarterly trade flows. Principles tested over Ukraine, Baltics, Mediterranean, held despite costs. Germany's defense minister stated exercises continue regardless of tariffs. France emphasized solidarity overrides commercial considerations. Nordic nations declared Arctic security existential interest, not bargaining chip. Canada's position reinforces calculus. Carney secured trade diversification, $240 billion Canada-China corridor through canola, seafood, EVs. $525 billion Qatar sovereign wealth fund investments in infrastructure, energy, manufacturing over next decade. Economic preparation, not coincidental, reducing U.S. trade dependence before crisis created strategic freedom to deploy troops without vulnerability. Ottawa can withstand Trump's pressure, tariffs, energy threats, supply disruptions, because alternatives exist. Diversification provides strategic depth. Canada no longer economically hostage, can absorb short-term costs because long-term alternatives secured, distinguishes Carney's approach from reactive management. Deliberate positioning for anticipated confrontation. What does U.S. lose? Arctic strategy collapses. Trump's plan assumed isolating Denmark would force Greenland toward America through economic necessity. Instead, Denmark gains multinational support, coordination with Arctic expertise Trump assumed only America provides. European allies demonstrate resolve stronger than economic interests. 8 nations openly defy tariffs, increase military presence, coordinate excluding Washington. Alliance functions especially when American leadership becomes threat. Canada extends coalition into North America. Trump loses ability to frame Greenland as European problem needing American solution, loses narrative that Arctic security depends on U.S. dominance, loses credibility when closest ally joins coalition opposing American ambitions. Greenland leadership explicitly rejects pressure. PM Mute Egede, we choose Denmark over U.S. Future determined by Greenlanders and Danes, not Washington. Thousands marched in Nuuk with Stop Trump signs. Public opinion overwhelmingly opposes American acquisition. NATO cohesion strengthens under pressure. Alliance tested by unprecedented scenario. Member threatening territorial acquisition of allied territory. Collective response proves Article 5 principles extend beyond Eastern Europe. Arctic becomes second front where NATO demonstrates resolve independent of American preferences. American credibility suffers. Allies openly defy tariffs, continue exercises despite coercion, coordinate excluding Washington. Alliance functions without American leadership when that leadership threatens collective interests. Transatlantic trust erodes. Every European statement emphasizes dangerous downward spiral. Von der Leyen warning about countering American coercion, language previously reserved for China and Russia. Rutte coordinating through NATO mechanisms designed for external threats, now applied internally. 8-nation condemnation unprecedented in modern NATO history. Trump has no leverage to reverse this, can't tariff cooperation into submission. 8 nations rejected pressure and prepared countermeasures, can't militarily intervene. Attacking Greenland means attacking NATO, triggering Article 5. Can't isolate Denmark. European and Canadian solidarity prevents it. Trump has zero leverage. Every threat strengthens unity. Every tariff justifies countermeasures. Every escalation confirms deployment was correct. Infrastructure creates permanence. Once Canadian troops participate, precedent established, future exercises build on framework, command relationships develop, logistics optimized, training aligns, interoperability improves, Arctic cooperation becomes normalized, NATO feature, Danish investments, patrol aircraft, naval vessels, radar, drones, operate 30, 50 years, can't be reversed without wasting billions, equipment facilities, training lock Denmark into permanent enhanced presence. European rotations create institutional memory, deployment logistics established and refined, training incorporates Greenland scenarios, officer careers include Arctic postings, budgets allocate cold weather equipment, collective presence becomes standard assumption, Canadian participation cements transatlantic dimension, establishes Arctic defense as allied responsibility spanning continents, involving indigenous communities, requiring cross-border coordination. Framework persists through government changes, economic cycles, leadership transitions. 20 years from now, NATO Arctic exercises will routinely include Canadian Rangers, Danish patrols, European specialists, Greenlandic forces and rotational deployments. Infrastructure built 2026 still functions. Radar scans, northern approaches, naval vessels patrol boundaries. Relationships forged become institutional partnerships embedded across alliance. Trump can't stop this future. Threatening more tariffs fails when allies prepared to withstand and retaliate. Demanding withdrawal falls flat when deployment strengthens credibility. Claiming Greenland as American interest rings hollow when Greenlanders choose Denmark and international community validates through military presence. Trump has zero leverage. Canadian troops deploy regardless. European presence continues regardless. NATO unity holds regardless. Arctic strategy collapses regardless. From Canadian perspective, fundamental transformation. No longer reactive partner following American directives, proactive ally, shaping security architecture, defender of sovereignty even when defending ally against ally. Leadership role not seen since Suez 1956. From European perspective, validates collective approach. Territorial pressure met with multinational response, including non-European partner. Economic coercion countered through solidarity spanning continents. Alliance functional despite American dysfunction. From Greenlandic perspective, international presence confirms sovereignty. Future determined democratically through partnership, not Washington pressure. Allied support makes independence sustainable. Trump's threats failed to change ground reality or shift public opinion. Carney deploys Canadian troops to Greenland. Trump's Arctic plan collapses. NATO defends member sovereignty even against internal threats. What do you think? Is Canada's Greenland deployment temporary crisis response or beginning of permanent Arctic framework operating independently of American preferences? Subscribe for analysis on Arctic geopolitics, NATO dynamics, sovereignty defense, and how security commitments reshape power when tested internally.